Hey guys, what we're going to look at today is America's first form of government or America's first constitution, and that's the Articles of Confederation. If you remember from last section, we looked at the events that led up to us declaring our independence from England. And now we're at the point where, like, okay, we broke away. We're no longer under England's rule. Now we need to set up our own government. And that's what we're going to look at today. If you look at this at a glance, 1777, the Second Continental Congress approves a plan for the Articles of Confederation. Now, keep in mind, the Revolutionary War is still going on. It's not like we declared our independence and England said, oh, okay, see you later. No, we're going to fight for several more years. And then when the American Revolution ends in the early 1780s, we're going to find out that our form of government that we created wasn't that good, that it had a lot of weaknesses. So here we go. In June of 1776, whenever we were writing our Declaration of Independence, we started working on a new government. And we're going to call this new government or this constitution the Articles of Confederation. And if you remember back with last chapter, we talked about the different systems of government. We have a unitary system, a federal system, and a confederal system or a confederate system. And with a confederate system, remember, all the power rests with the states. All the power rests with the regional governments, and they give power to the central government. Remember, the arrows go up. In a federal system, power is shared between the central government and the states. And with a unitary system, all the power is at the top, and they delegate power to the local or regional governments. So what we are going to have is a confederacy. With the confederacy, they actually use the phrase, it's a firm league of friendship. Think about that, a firm league of friendship. It's more like an alliance. Hey, we're going to work together when we want to, but we're still going to be our own states. In essence, the Articles of Confederation created 13 independent or 13 sovereign countries. That the states were going to retain their sovereignty, their independence, their freedom. In 1777, so it takes about a year, the colonies, or now the states, ratify or officially adopt the Articles of Confederation. Let's look at the details of the Articles. With the powers of the national government, the authors purposely created a weak national government, a very weak. Here's why. We just got done declaring our independence from England, and we thought England was this strong, tyrannical government. So what did we do? We said, we don't want to do that, so we're going to do the exact opposite. Whenever we talk about this, or whenever I talk about this, I like to think of this as a pendulum swinging back and forth like on a grandfather clock. And England was way over here. We didn't want that. So what are we going to do? Do the exact opposite. Instead of a strong, super strong central government, we're going to create a super weak central government where the states have all the power. There is no judicial branch under the Articles. There is no executive branch under the Articles. So it is a one-branch system with the National Congress. And it was a unicameral legislature, one house. And each state got one vote. They could admit new states. They could settle disputes. They could coin money. They could raise a government, raise an army. They could declare war, and they had the power to conduct foreign policy. The states got everything else. Anything that wasn't specifically delegated to Congress, to the national government in the Articles, was left for the states. Now think about this. Under the Articles, there's only the legislative branch that could make laws. There is no one to enforce these laws. So states could ignore a federal law. The federal government did not have the power to collect taxes. They relied on donations. Think about that. How are they going to raise an army if they can't collect taxes to pay for the army? We're going to see that there's a lot of shortcomings with the articles. And states, they were supposed to contribute money to the federal government, but it was like, you're supposed to, but what are we going to do if you don't? And that's the problem. The government needs money to function. And that was one of the big weaknesses. If you look at this, this is a really good chart. On the left-hand side with the powers of Congress, you can see what they could do: coin money, admit new states, what we just talked about. On the right-hand side is the limitations. There's no president or executive branch, no court system, so like I said, one branch, no power to tax, no power to regulate trade, no power to forbid the states from conducting foreign policy. And then if you wanted to pass a law within the National Congress, it required 9 out of the 13 states to approve it. That's not just a majority. A majority would be 7 out of 13. They required 9. So it's a super majority. So it's going to be awfully tough for Congress to even pass a law because 9 out of the 13 states had to agree. And if you wanted to amend the Articles of Confederation, it required unanimous approval. 13 out of 13, which wasn't going to happen. But this is a really good chart to look at. This is also in your textbook or the online textbook that you can look at and refer back to. Here are the weaknesses. This is what I just talked about. Congress had some powers, but it was left up to the states to enforce these powers, which if the states didn't want to, they didn't have to. There's no executive branch, no national courts, no power to tax. It was difficult to get the states to donate money so they could pay back war debts. They couldn't regulate trade among the states, so states could tax each other's products. Congress had the power to coin money, but so did states. States had the power to coin their own money. So imagine you're going to Virginia and then you go to North Carolina. Not only do you need Virginia money, but you need North Carolina money. And then possibly we have American or national government currency as well. It can get pretty confusing and it's pretty cumbersome. And then, like I said, 9 out of 13 states to pass a law and unanimous approval to amend the articles. One of the greatest laws passed, and most people would say it's the greatest law passed under the Articles, but one of the best laws ever passed by Congress for us was the Northwest Ordinance. And the Northwest Ordinance set out the structure for how we were to admit new states and how it banned slavery in the new states and how it forced the states to adopt the Constitution, including the Bill of Rights. This Northwest, at the time, today, the Northwest part of the United States, we would say is Washington and Oregon and Idaho, that area. But back then, what was the Northwest? Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Northern Illinois. That was the Northwest back then. There were problems going on here in the United States that we had to try to address. And one of them was war debts. Fighting the Revolutionary War cost money. The National Congress, under the Articles in 1783, passed a tax on imports. But it was never really ratified or agreed to with the states, and the government started running out of money real quick. States did what they wanted, and people actually referred to the states as 13 sovereignties pulling against each other. We were 13 independent countries. Each state did what it wanted to, and that was not good. But remember, with this pendulum, we had a super strong government under England. We didn't want that, so we're going to purposely create a super weak. And we're going to realize that's not working either. So we're going to have to find something in the middle. And that's what we're going to end up creating. That's a spoiler, I know. In 1786, there is a Revolutionary War captain by the name of Daniel Shays. He lived in western Massachusetts. And in Massachusetts, in the 1700s, mid 1780s, banks started foreclosing on farms. And farmers were losing their farms, their land. And Daniel Shays rounded up a group, a mob, and they started attacking judges they started attacking courthouses. So judges couldn't get in and foreclose on them, couldn't sign the documents ordering their foreclosure. And within a short time, this mob of Daniel Shays grew to over 2,000 people. This wasn't good. Massachusetts calls up the federal government and they said, hey, help us out. We got a rebellion brewing. And the national government says, sorry, we don't have any money. We can't send you a militia. We can't help you raise money for a militia because we're broke. And Massachusetts was on its own. Luckily, the state was able to round up a militia and put down the rebellion. This was a close call. People realized, they're like, this was a close call. We could have really had a problem. What if this rebellion had spread to Pennsylvania? What if the rebellion spread to New York and Virginia? Or what if Massachusetts fell? What if the government collapsed? What are we going to do now? And people started realizing we need to change this. We need to revise the articles because this was too close for comfort. People started saying, what if? What if Daniel Shays had been successful? What would we have done? And so Shays' rebellion was really the spark that caused people to start saying, we need something else. Now, I will tell you that not everybody was on board. In 1785, George Washington calls delegates to his home at Mount Vernon to start talking about trade. In 1787, in Annapolis, they tried to revise the articles, and only 5 states showed up. This is the February 1787. James Madison persuades the Confederation Congress to call a meeting for revising the articles. Oh, sorry. Back up. 1786, we have a meeting in Annapolis to revise the articles. I apologize. But only 5 states show up. That's the Annapolis Convention. And it was in 1787 that we get more people on board to call for a convention to revise the articles. And so they decided on May 1787 to strengthen the articles. Now, here's a little spoiler alert. We're not just going to revise the articles. We're going to trash them. We realize that the Articles of Confederation, the way it was set up was just too messed up for us. It was too far gone for us to just tweak. We needed a complete overhaul. And that's what we're going to look at in section 4. And we will handle that in the next section. I do apologize for messing up at the very end. We're talking about the Annapolis Convention and then the Constitutional Convention. But like I said, these lecture notes, I talk and try to do these lectures as I would in the classroom. Sometimes I make a mistake, but I corrected myself, so it's all good in the end. Until then, have a good day. See you.